All right, everybody, come on in, come on in. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk with Maggie and Lucy, where we believe the older women should teach the young, just like the late great Kevin Samuel said. So we come here with y'all once a week and we give you our take on relationship content. We are here to provide a safe space and a sanctuary for those young ladies who are prioritizing marriage and family in their prime. So we've got part two of where we left off last week. So Lucy, why don't you remind everybody, what are we reacting to today?
We are reacting to, I don't remember the content creator that asked this old man or something like that. And he has a set of clips, either TikTok or Instagram clips from women who are complaining about the amount of debt that they are. And we kind of see the perspective of a younger mind thinking that, these consequences are probably temporary and they're not going to apply to them on the long run. And for us, looking at it on the relationship side, we would think that if a man sees you posting your $100,000 debt on TikTok, on social media, they're going to say, wait a minute, red flag. Is this what I am going to be responsible for if I decide to ask her to be part of my life? And by the way, Maggie, that color orange looks beautiful on you.
Oh, you're too kind. Thank you so much, Lucy. I am I'm embarrassed to say I'm still unpacking from some of my recent travels, and this is a silk robe from China. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful, and thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. All right, so ladies, again, like we said last week, you can be financially unattractive to a man. That only matters if you want a relationship now or in the future. If you want to do your own thing, we always give you your disclaimers. Lucy and I are not here for everybody. We're only here for the women who actually want a real relationship. We have a combined over 40 years of marriage experience. So if that's helpful to you, hopefully you can learn something here. If you want to be a boss babe and do your own thing, that's fine. But in addition to all the other qualities that men look at for the long term, like Lucy said, not just a situationship or just to have fun. If you want him to claim you as his own, how you handle money is important. So we're going to jump right back into it. This video is from Ask an Older Man. We did one half last week, so we're going to finish it up today. So I see you all coming through in the chat. We'd love to hear your thoughts and bring you into the conversation. So we're going to pick up on where we left off with this beautiful young woman talking about her debt while enjoying a McMuffin on the screen.
Used to really bother me, but I'm done letting it bother me. And before anybody says I'm lazy or to get a job, I have a job. I work 40 hours a week. Not to mention I work in healthcare, so I'm also saving lives. If a debt collector calls me, they're getting blocked. Because seriously, why would you give that much money to a 23-year-old? It's not my fault.
I can't listen to her freaking crunch on this damn thing. 23 years old, 300,000 in debt. So just imagine now, you meet her out, you're in your 30s, you're thinking, oh, well, man, she's 23. She's not bad looking, a little bit of, no, she's average, you can see that she's not too juicy, she got a good job. She must be somebody that's eligible for a good long-term relationship. And if you don't do your investigation because you're thinking, 23-year-old, how much debt could she possibly rack up at 23-year-old? 10,000, I can handle that. Maybe if it's 30,000, I can handle that. 300 freaking thousand. And then, of course, she's going to file for bankruptcy. So now, if it ever comes to a point where both of you want to buy a house together, guess whose credit score is screwed? So it's all going to fall on you, my brothers. This one you will not touch. Don't care how beautiful she is, how young she is, how hot she is. This is a walking nightmare. This is an irresponsible child.
I was on TikTok before you.
All right, so I just want to unpack this one a little bit more. We talked about it last week, so I won't repeat myself. The things that stood out to me, again, is her attitude towards this debt. So nonchalant. The things that she said that stood out to me, it's not my fault. Oh, by the way, I work in healthcare, so I'm saving lives. So in her girl math, it makes sense that because you're doing, I'm making it up, nursing, that you should be forgiven, this $300,000 of debt, which is outrageous to me. At my age, almost 50, she has more debt than I do for a home. And she is just casually eating and talking about it like, you shouldn't have given me this money. Oh, well. And ladies, again, I implore you, it's not just about the money. It is the money, but men look at your approach to life, your decision making, what is important to you. And something like that is extremely serious to men. So if you want a relationship with a man, the things that are serious to him need to be serious to you. So if you think money is just something to play with, you will find yourself forever single because no man will take you seriously. What would you add, Lucy?
Perfect. And in addition to that, I don't want to hear her in 10 years saying, oh, I was too young. I didn't know what I was doing when I posted that. Because notice that she edited the part where she was biting and she had like a piece of something on her lip, a little, just a millisecond later, it's gone. And she edited that part. So she knows exactly what she was doing. So later on, when you hear these, women, older women say, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. Well, perfect example, exhibit A, that you did really know what you were doing because you took the time to edit that post that you did 10 years ago.
Great eye. I love that, Lucy. Let's go back in and see what else they try to hide.
Page, a woman popped up and she was like, me and my husband make $150,000 a year. A lot, right? Well, to me, that's a lot. And she's like, we live paycheck to paycheck. And I'm like, wait, in my head, I'm like, we live paycheck to paycheck. You make $150,000. How are you living paycheck to paycheck? And she was just saying, like, even if you make more, you still live paycheck to paycheck. And now I'm in my brain like, so we're trying to grind to make all this money, but we're still going to live paycheck to paycheck. Like, that's what she's making me think. And I don't want to believe that's true, but is that technically true? She's like, I have a house, I have 2 cars, I do this and this with my kids, but we still live paycheck to paycheck. And I'm like, is there even a point of trying to grind? Like, is there a point where you're just like catching the money, but you still live paycheck to paycheck? Like, it's like a circle. It would be never ending. And I'm just like, for people that actually make $150,000, do you live paycheck to paycheck? Is that true? Because I don't want to believe it's true.
I don't know.
All right, young ladies, let's talk about this. Let's talk about some basic financial literacy. And Lucy and I are not financial professionals, but there's some wisdom here that I think we can all learn from. I really think we should know. Ladies, you can be a thousandaire and live paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. You can be a millionaire and live paycheck to paycheck. You could probably be a billionaire. I don't know. And have difficulties with money. Again, circling back to the last young lady, it's about your approach to money, what is important to you, how much you consume. Because it doesn't matter if the money is coming in. It's simple math, ladies. If you spend more than you earn, you will be living paycheck to paycheck. You will be in debt. Just like if we eat more than we burn, we will gain weight, right? So we can't pretend like the simple logic doesn't apply, even if you make 6 figures. And I know coming up, that was the goal for a lot of us. Okay, I want to make 6 figures. And then when you get there, you realize, oh, I can still be struggling. I just have bigger things, bigger house, bigger car, bigger wardrobe. So what I would encourage young ladies and what I tell the boys, you have to decide what is important to you. We all have discretionary income. We all do what we want with our money, but you have to decide what standard of living you're going to be able to maintain with a few nice things here and there. But if you're always chasing that shiny new toy, have to have the new purse, have to have the new car, have to have the new shoes, it doesn't matter how much you make. And again, that's important to men because they can do a lot more with a lot less. What would you add, Lucy?
Yes, in addition to that, it's funny how you talk about the weight part. When she was saying that, I'm here going calories in, calories out, money in, money out. So I was thinking, if you live paycheck to paycheck at 150,000, yearly, amount that comes in, those are choices that you make. Are you going to choose to, get the 2025 latest car, or are you willing to just, have the car that you have, to run it down to the last, turn that it makes, because you just don't want to have a car payment. For me, car payments are a death to me. I don't want to have a car payment. I don't care what kind of car I'm driving. It's just one of those additional things that I could be using it to maybe add it on to my savings to take a 1 year trip, to go to the yearly celebration for finishing school. It's one of those things that it's like, I need to save for the things that are important to me and that are important to your husband. And if you decide to live paycheck to paycheck, it's because you're consuming a lot more for things that probably 10 years from now, you're not even going to know that you have them. And you have to sit down with your husband and say, what are our priorities? Now, do we want to live without any kind of debt? Let's focus on any kind of debt. If you have a goal, you will stick to it, but you have to write it down, and you have to make a commitment that that's what you're going to stick to, because later on, when you have no debt, you can have the worst financial catastrophe come to you, but you have that, security blanket of that money that you saved when you didn't have as much debt as you had, when you had all of these credit cards because you paid for $300 at Sephora, or $200 that, to get your hair done. So again, those are things that are practical, that sadly for us, consumerism has taken over our minds, and it's time to, even for young women, to step back and say, will this be matter, a year from now? So again, it's kind of practical, thinking about, if you want to be a wife, you want to be that frugal, practical mind, because you're going to be using that money for other things. If you have children, you're going to have to be, balancing that money coming in and out for things that are more important than just, the new pair of shoes or the new bag.
So true. So I'm going to park here for a moment and give you all a little bit of wisdom, if you will, from my own experience. I believe that's how we teach, from what we've done right as well as what we've done wrong. But shameless plug, since Lucy brought up the finishing school, we are the proud founders of the Finishing School for the Modern Woman. Put a pin in that. Our next class is coming up in 2 weeks, ladies. It is relationship basics. Sorry, wrong one. Relationship basics. If you don't even know how to get started, if you don't know what it means to be a support system for a man, if you were not raised to be a wife and you find yourself having trouble getting out of your own way, we have a class starting July 19th. It's only $100. It's 2 sessions. You have lifetime access, and we teach it live. You can get it on demand, but we like to teach it live so that you all can ask questions and we can make it personal to you. So again, go to teachablemomentswithmaggie.com. You'll see it in the banner here, and we'd love to have you in class starting July 19th. Lucy brought up car payment. I've never had a car payment. And for me, staying out of debt, unless it's like a mortgage, has been very important. I shared with you all how I got through college working my way, and then I did my master's degree through tuition reimbursement. Where there's a will, there's a way. So when it comes to the car, number one, I'm not a car person. If you're a car person, that's fine. But my first job out of college, it was a sales job. It was like a traveling sales job. And they gave us a company vehicle with that sales job. It was a minivan. Now I'm 25, not married yet, no kids, engaged. But the way the program worked with this company, they would give us a new vehicle every 3 years. And I worked with them for 10 years. And when the car, they had like a company lease. And when the car was up for the lease and it was time for us to get a new company vehicle that they paid everything for, they gave us the option to buy the car that we had been driving from new for pennies, like $5,000. Now, this was a minivan. This was a mom mobile. I was not a mom yet, but I had an opportunity to buy a car and pay cash for it. I took my bonus and paid cash for it so that I would never have a car payment. And I did that 3 times. Did I want to drive a minivan when I was in my 20s? No, but you know what? Never had a car payment. And I drove it until the wheels fell off. Y'all don't go through the bank now, but I remember going to the bank teller and, you would send your check in and come back and they would put lollipops in the whatever that chute thing is, because they thought there were kids in the back, because I'm driving the mom mobile. And you know what? I kind of laughed it off, but it was one of the smartest things that I did because I was able to save early and often. And then when you become our age and you don't want to pull those 60-hour weeks and you don't want to go for that promotion, you want to spend more time at home. Now I have options. Now I can travel a little bit. Now I can work to take care of the kids. And then Mr. President will retire me early because I'm not coming in saddled with so much debt that I'm going to be a burden. So if you think it doesn't matter now, believe me, when you get to our age, you're going to want to have the option to work. Nobody wants to work at 50 and 60 because they have to. Don't believe me? Time is coming for all of us. All right, let's go in and see what else Ask an Older Man has to say.
If women just don't think about basic math, income, expense. Most people who make a lot of money, 150,000, they think that they're now qualified to live middle class or upper middle class, depending on where you are. And because they can buy it, they think that they should spend it. Because there's a difference between buying it and affording it. They might be able to buy it, but they can't afford it. Because in my humble opinion, if you can't pay your bills and invest some at the end of each and every single paycheck, you cannot afford it. You can't afford it. You can pay for it, but there's nothing left over after the fact. That means you cannot afford it. What we all have to learn is that, okay, if I'm making 150,000 and I'm living paycheck to paycheck, I need to downgrade my lifestyle because I'm living too high above my means. I need to be able to invest at least 20% of that every single year. So 25,000 should be saved every year from that $150 income. That's how we have to learn to live our lives. But we have developed this mentality that the more I make, I have to show other people that I am successful. Because what's the sense of making all this money and I can't show other people that I'm actually successful? This is the stupidity of us. It's like this simple conundrum. If I gave you $1 million today, what would you do with it? Most women will say, oh, I'll buy this and I'll go here and I will do this and I will do that, etc. And it's all about how I can spend the money. Where the smart guy says, I would take 90% of it and invest it so that I'm getting at least a 10% return every single year. That means $100,000 coming back to you every single year. And you would live on that 100,000. Whereas the ignorant person will just think, I got to spend half of it on shit that don't bring me any return. No investments. I got to have fun. I got to travel. I got to do all of these things with the million. So they will burn through a massive amount of the million before investing the balance. Whereas a smart person will say, I'm going to invest the large majority of it and wait for a year and live off of the interest that or the return I'm getting on that money. Wait another year, invest it all, if anything. Because before you were only surviving on freaking less than 100,000. And that's the reason why people who actually win lotteries or come into a lot of money, they lose it instantly because they have no freaking idea how to save or invest money. The $1 million is to spend in their eyes.
Why are you in a bunch of debt? 27 years old.
I spent like 10K going to Europe.
Oh.
Yeah, for 5 weeks. And I know that it's not going to make me look good and people are going to have opinions about this, but I honestly do not regret that for a second.
Well,
It gave me like a reason to want to live again, honestly.
Oh, Jesus. This is a kind of emotional.
All right, let's talk about this. What she just said before I muted it, it gave me a reason to live again. I'm sorry, ladies. You are not going to find your purpose or a reason to live again, traveling around the world and spending money that you don't have. And this is from someone who loves to travel. The purpose of travel is to experience other cultures, to learn from other people. Maybe you want to try other foods. Maybe you want to look at different architecture, but you are the same person going and the same person coming. So if you are empty inside, if you are dead inside, if you do not know how to maintain relationships or have a good work ethic, if you don't have good character, travel is not going to help you with any of that. And I'm looking at how young she was. I don't know, but it looked like she was in her 20s. And she said, I don't regret any of it. It gave me a reason to live again. Lucy and I talked about this last week, especially ladies. You know, we grew up in a time, and Lucy and I are both immigrants, and we were raised to understand delayed gratification. I don't know what this is with young people who expect to live the high life now. It doesn't happen now. When you're young and you get that bonus or you get that windfall, that's when you save it because you're used to living on nothing. Like he said, that's what I did. Every time I got a bonus, every time I got an increase, I put that into savings so that when you get older, you have options. What's really terrifying is you seeing the women our age that are now scraping and scrambling, trying to figure out how they're going to make ends meet. They're looking at the second half of life and they have no plan in place. And your body's breaking down and it takes you longer to recover. And nobody's going to hire you and promote you at the same clip that they were doing before. And now you're moving out of desperation. And we do not want that for our ladies. So again, do what you want to with your disposable income, but save some things. Once you put things in order, you can actually enjoy that travel and not look for inspiration that you're not going to find. What would you add, Lucy?
Exactly. What is it? You are who you are wherever you go. So again, whether you felt like, your life was not living, after you took your travel, you're coming back, and then 5 days from when you come back from your travel story, you're going to feel like you're not living again. You're going to look for a different way of saying that you're not living and spending more money. And unfortunately, this is a great country, but it's also a very smart country. And there's marketing, corporations that look at your behavior, and what they've tried to tell us is that you got to pretend of more than what you are. So again, by pretending and buying all those things that later on you're going to say, why am I doing this? You are getting yourself into a situation where it's going to be so hard to get out of, then to take a step back. Yeah, your friends are doing that, but you know what? You have different goals. You have a different vision. And that's where you, as a young person, you have all these years in the future to start saving now. So when you are 50 and you see all these women living paycheck to paycheck, you're 50 and you're good because you have all that reserve money to do whatever you want. So again, this consumerism rewards, that immediate reward, is kind of like a curse, because if you're looking to have something happen now, you're going to have it, but you are going to be paying for it later on.
Could not agree more. I see you all in the chat and I see you all are taking this seriously, and it's true. You definitely don't want to be in unnecessary debt. Of course, a home, most of us have a mortgage. If you don't have a mortgage, that's great. But we were raised that maybe a car, but if you can, I drive a 10-year-old car. There's nothing wrong with that. It's paid off. I don't want you all to hamstring yourself and then you get to our age and now you're desperate. Let's go back in.
Bullshit that they're going to try to pump in your face. It gave me a reason to want to live again. Going to Europe. No, it didn't. You went to Europe and you saw the same shit. You probably got pumped out by some freaking guy, some French dude or some friggin' Italian dude. Same shit you could have gotten back in your hometown. What did you see that was so life-changing? The Louvre? Eiffel Tower? Ooh. Now you're $27,000 in debt and you're stressing every day. Was it really worth it? Now you're on some talk show crying, but it was worth it. No, it wasn't freaking worth it. Don't try to convince people that it was worth it. It wasn't freaking worth it. Because now you got to stress yourself out to try to freaking pay the principal plus the interest. Women love to cry to get sympathy for their stupidity. It's one of the most conniving ways of women who want to garnish your sympathy for their stupidity is to just shed a few tears. and just make that. Just make that.
When I quit my job, I had 10 to 15K saved up.
Oh,
Like
wow.
as
Why'd
emergency
you quit your
savings.
job?
It was a tough work environment. It was basically one of those things where the boss felt like a Bravo reality TV show. Like he was the villain, but
Oh,
also
jeez.
like super hectic and a lot going on. So I'm grateful for the experience and I'm really glad I left there. But I do try to take on freelance clients if it's worth it. But right now I'm just trying to focus on my new job. And it is a pretty new job. And so yeah, I really like where I am.
Okay, so are you okay?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, no, it's okay. Your voice is shaking, so I just want to make sure.
In general, I do get shaky when I talk too. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, just as someone who is an anxious person and has my own issues with that, I want to make sure.
What kind of kid?
He's about to have a rant, and I feel it coming. Ladies, and I would say gentlemen, but I don't feel like I have a place to talk to men. I'm going to give you some wisdom from Mr. President. Simple Southern man who just says it like it is. They call it work because it's work. We don't go to fun, do we? No, sir, we don't. We go to work. I don't know what this is about some young people who think we are supposed to enjoy work. It is a job. Some of us have a profession, some of us just have jobs. Either way, we are trading years of our life for the money that they give us. We use that money to go enjoy the other parts of our life. They are not paying us to have fun. So when you hear this young woman who had to escape to Europe because she had a job and a boss that was like a reality TV show, what do you expect? These companies are hiring us to extract as much resource as they can, and they pay us just enough so that we don't quit. Now, I hope she left after she had already found another job, which that is fine. But people who just quit their job because they're not happy, or quit their relationships because they're not happy, or the boss doesn't like me. No, they don't like you. Your coworkers are not your friends. These are not your besties. Nobody cares. You could drop, you know what, tomorrow, and they will fill that seat with somebody else. So again, this is why I implore young ladies to make decisions now about the life that you want to live. It's very different when you're working, knowing that, hey, this is work. I come in, I do my job. It is what it is. As opposed to having the fantasy that these people really care for you. You are a number on a balance sheet. And I'm speaking from experience, and I'm not bitter about it. I've been laid off at least 5 times. In tech, that's what happens. You land back on your feet and you move on. But if you allow yourself to think that you're more than just a resource, that's when people get really shattered, because they thought this exchange of income for hours was more than just a transaction, and that's all it is. What would you add, Lucy?
Right on point, Maggie. And the best way to see work is, it's just a job. It's a job that pays me, for what I do, and it's going to allow you to see things and not take things personally. If there's a layoff, that it's a job, that you're going to have to go somewhere else and find that your job is not your family. Your work is, you come in, do your job, and do everything else outside. And that's why sometimes it's better to have that separation and not to think that your friends at work are your friends everywhere else, because it's better to have that separation just to avoid any kind of interpersonal issues in and away from your work.
Absolutely. Let's hear and this channel is Ask an Older Man. I dropped the link in the chat. Let's see what he has to say about our dear 27-year-old.
What kind of kids are we producing today? I think we're in soft times, but it's transitioning quickly right now, and we're going to hit hard times again. But the generation that we have created are just so freaking fragile. It's unreal, man.
Everyone's always like, Brenda, why are you working so hard? Why are you doing a full-time job and posting on TikTok all the dang time? It's because I have $78,327 in student loans. And you want to know how much unpaid interest I accrued in the month of February? $523.93. And this is me paying at least a minimum of $2,000 per month. Started with a little bit over $150-something thousand because I had the bright idea of going to grad school so that I can graduate in a healthcare job to help people, but not get paid enough for the amount of student loans I had to take out. Now, my fault, I went to a private university, but still, it shouldn't be this hard to pay off student loans. But
Did you say not my fault that I went to?
Yes, she did. Again, ladies, this is what men are talking about when they say we have a lack of accountability. Nobody made you choose that school. America has so many options for higher education. I explained to you all last week how I got through grad school. But for you to go sign on the dotted line, take the money, and then say it's not my fault that I went to this private school, it absolutely is. There are community colleges, there are state colleges, there are things that you can do to work and get that translated into credits. There's lots of options. And you know what's so funny, not funny, is we find so many ways to be creative to figure out the other stuff we want to do. When that store has those shoes on sale or those concert tickets go on sale, y'all know how to set your alarms, you know how to swap things, you know how to do everything you want to do. But then you want to become deaf, dumb, and mute when it's time to repay what you borrowed. If you don't want to repay, then don't borrow. I also went to private school. But I worked my way through private school because I didn't want to have that debt. And I had a little bit of debt when I graduated that I paid off immediately, sacrificed the bonus so that I could be debt free. Again, we do what we want to do. And like we said last week, do not go for a degree and take debt that you cannot pay back. If the amount that you are borrowing is not what you're going to make in annual salary, do not take that debt. So if you're not going to be making $100,000, do not borrow $100,000. I don't think you should borrow $100,000 anyway, but that's just me. What would you add, Lucy?
I agree. And notice that the majority of people having that problem with thousands of dollars is women. Because why? Because we tend to follow the crowd. We tend to follow the friend that went to this private university over here. And I want to go because it's, it has a better, night style environment, or it's got a better, a better food court. It's time for us to say, you know what? Like I did, I went to community college to meet all of my general eds. Because why? Because it was cheaper, much cheaper than having to go to even, I went to a state university, California State University, Sacramento. And it was much cheaper than thinking about going to, any other private university, because you have to do the balance. And you know what? The education, I want to say it's pretty much the same whether you go to a private or public. In fact, a public university, it probably has like a magnifying glass on what they teach than a private university. So again, you just have to make those, just because your friend is going to an Ivy League school, you don't have to go. First of all, do you have the grades? And second of all, you're going to be spending some of that money just because to say that you went to an Ivy League school. Does that matter at the end? It doesn't. That Ivy League school is not going to come back and pay some of your student loan debt. So again, it's about just looking at perspective and being practical and efficient with your money.
So true. I'm going to give you all a little bit of story time. I'm going to get a little vulnerable here and tell on myself again, but I do this because I don't want women to make the same mistakes that I made. I went to a private college. I went to the #1 HBCU in the US. I had a great experience. Coming out of high school, I was a straight A student. But unfortunately for me, I was one of those students that was able to make A's without really trying very hard. Naturally smart, but I didn't have the work ethic to be able to maintain that at a not secondary school, at a college level. And so I had a full tuition scholarship because of my grades and my scores, and I interview well, to this private college. And I got to college and I thought I was going to be able to do just like I did in high school, listen in class, kind of do the assignments, kind of read, come in on exam day and ace it. Maggie did not ace it. As a matter of fact, Maggie lost her scholarship to this private school. And my dad said, well, I guess you're coming home and going to state school. And that did something to me. We all have these moments in life where you make a decision if you're going to get serious or if you're going to keep playing around. Some of you ladies have the luck when it comes to attention because you're beautiful and you don't really have to try hard, and you get into the places and you get connections without really doing anything. So I flunked. I was put on academic probation, lost my scholarship. Huge check to my ego. My dad said, you're coming home. And I said, you know what? I got myself in here. I am going to get myself out of here. So the next semester, when I tell you I hit the books, I went to every tutoring session. I started taking notes. And because I lost my scholarship, I now had to get a job. So every summer break, every weekend, anytime we had a holiday, I was working. I had a sales job that earned commission so I could work a little bit of time and stack up some money to pay my way through school. The next semester, I was on the dean's list. And I stayed from that point on. And I said, never again. So when I'm over here howling at the moon and telling you ladies to take life seriously, it's because I have made those mistakes. Now, here's the thing. I didn't want to just sign on the dotted line and be in debt for all of this money. I worked and I saved and I drove an old beater car and I did everything that I needed to do to graduate. And I'm only telling you all this with a degree in chemistry, which is not easy, from Spelman College, which is a very hard school to get into. But I made a decision that I am going to take this seriously and I'm going to work and fix the mistake that I made. So anyway, all I'm saying is you can go to the school that you want to, but life does not owe you anything. No amount of sob story, no amount of tears, no amount of, oh, I got it right. Even though I was on the dean's list the second semester, you know what they told me? Sorry, we gave that scholarship to somebody else. So how many of you all have had the opportunity of a lifetime, since we talk about relationships here, with a man who could change your life and you didn't take it seriously because you thought you were too cute, because it always came easy to you. So that is the point that I'm trying to drive home. So anyway, I was able to graduate, got my degree, went on to graduate school. You all know the history. But from that point on, I decided to take life very seriously because I learned a very painful lesson. Nothing is given to you. So you can learn from your own mistakes or you can learn from the mistakes of others. And as an older woman, that's what I'm trying to do to help younger women. Don't just do it like Lucy said, because everybody's doing it. Ask yourself, do I have what it takes? And if you don't put yourself in a situation that you can't get yourself out of. All right, let's go back in and see what
A private school? Did she say that? Let me rewind that.
I had to take out. Now, my fault, I went to a private university. But
She did say, not my fault that I went to a private university. So someone forced her to go to this private university with this massive debt, going into a profession that cannot freaking pay off her loan.
still, it shouldn't be this hard to pay off student loan. But based on my PT salary alone, there is absolutely no way that I could pay this much with just that salary alone and live a breathable, decent life. Make it make sense?
No, it doesn't make sense. I can't make that make sense.
I have $97,000 in debt and I am not filing for bankruptcy, and this makes people big mad, including Zeke.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make people mad. It's your freaking debt. You're responsible for it. You pay it off. Next.
I think I've said enough, Lucy. What would you add?
I'm gonna be the what is it? The other side of the previous lady, the Asian young girl, I think she said, now, my fault, because that makes a difference. If she said, not my fault, or if she says, now, my fault for going to a private university. That's the only thing, that what if the devil's advocate that I think she might have said, but everything else, I mean, it's just nonsense. And people not willing to step up and be courageous and say, you know what, just like you did, Maggie, you know what, I screwed up this one and now we'll, get myself out. That takes a lot of courage and strength, and saying, you know what, I'm going to have to do it because I screwed up. I think we have not taught the younger generation to take ownership of their mistakes.
I agree. Thank you all so much. And, I don't like to toot my own horn, but I really do believe that this is what it means for the older women to teach the young. We've all lived life. We've all lived mistakes. And I don't want young women to think, oh, that's so aspirational, I could never be that. You absolutely can. But again, if you want to, I think this woman, the young woman, the Asian woman, said that her PT salary. So she's a physical therapist. Ladies, if you want to go into nursing or teaching or any of these jobs, I saw someone who said, before I started school, I looked at, what was available in my field. You need to do that due diligence. You need to look and say, okay, when I have this piece of paper on the wall, what am I going to be able to do? Yes, I have a STEM degree because STEM is in demand. I could have gone to private school and got a degree in sociology, but I wasn't going to be able to make any money on that. So you have to really do that research. And if you want that type of role, I don't want to go out of my element here, but I think there are programs, for example, teachers. I think there are some school districts I've heard where if you teach in like lower income areas for a certain number of years after you graduate, they forgive your loan. Like there's programs like that. And I don't know how all of it works. Maybe maybe you're able to work, in an impoverished area or overseas or the Peace Corps or something where you can get school paid for or at least get those loans forgiven. Don't just do it blindly and then get to the end and say, okay, y'all come rescue me from myself. It doesn't work that way. So, do your research first. And again, yes, we're talking about finances today, but again, this applies to how you approach everything in life. Do you just show up somewhere and you're like, I don't know, somebody tell me what I'm supposed to do next? Or do you take the time to plan, and are you intentional with how you move through life? Because believe me, the men that you want, they are very intentional about everything. And if you just show up as whimsical and carefree, oh, well, I messed up over there. And okay, I lost that money and I swiped my card and I don't know what happened. They're going to look at you like somebody to have fun with and leave you right where they found you. All right, let's go back in.
So my evening job, whilst I tell you how I got in 20k worth of credit card debt at the age of 19 to 21. When I turned 18, I decided that I wanted to get a credit card because I wanted to build my credit. And I don't know, I just thought when you turn 18, like I'm an adult now, I'm supposed to have a credit card. I remember applying for one with my bank that I'd been with since I was 13, Barclays. I think I just applied online and I got given like a £400 limit. I think it was like the Barclays card essential, like it's just a starter one. At this time I worked at Waitrose part-time. I'd been there since I was 16. So I'd been there for 2 years. I was only working 2 days a week. I think it was like 10-hour contracts. I was managing that card fine. I was paying it off every month. I had a 0% purchase offer, I believe, for like 6 or 12 months. Then because I was managing the card well, I started getting offers in the post for new credit cards.
Yeah. This is the shitty part. This is something that you all have to watch out for, my friends. Once you get one credit card and you're doing well at paying it off, they're going to slowly try to start ramping up the amount of money that you can borrow from them because you are a responsible borrower. But listen, they aren't trying to reward you because you're good. They're trying to suck you in deeper because credit card companies don't make money when you pay your repayment in full and on time. They don't make any interest from you. So they're cursing. They're going, oh, shit. They actually call people who pay their credit card bills on time or before time and before the interest kicks in. They call us deadbeats. They don't like us. Those responsible individuals that pay their credit card off, they don't like us. So what they do is, let me feed this guy some more money. Let's see if we could hook him in with more credit. But this is what happened with her. So they extend the freaking credit. You, ladies, you think that, oh, they're rewarding you because you're so good. No, they're not rewarding you. They're sucking you in because they know the more you borrow, it's going to get to a point where you can no longer pay it back on time. They know that. This is how the game is played. So let's hear how far she got sucked in.
All right, so before we listen to part 2 of her story, I also had a pet peeve. Cheryl was asking, what in the world is she talking about? And I know I'm going to show my age here, but ladies, I don't understand this having a conversation while brushing your hair, eating the egg muffin. Again, it is so distracting and unprofessional. I know people do these get ready with me story times while I put on my makeup. I think grooming, this is what we teach in the finishing school. Grooming is something that you do in private. I know there's tutorials and things like that, but then that should have been a hair tutorial. Let me show you how I brush out these braids or whatever. Again, that's just my little rant. But like Ask an Older Man said, young people especially, you have to realize nobody is here to give you anything or make your life better. Everybody that you interact with, everybody wants something from you. Now, that can be mutually agreeable. We talked about work. We exchange our hours for the income and salary that we get. It can be a relationship. The man of your dreams could say, you know what? I want someone to help be a support system, create a warm and welcoming home for me, and be the mother of the children and, the lady in my life. Will you be my wife? You can say yes to that. And in exchange for his provision, protection, his covering, his name, his banner, all of that. But nobody is going to just extend money to you for free. It's always going to cost you something. And with interest, it's going to cost you more. So again, every time you pay off something, you're going to miraculously get these new offers in the mail. You're pre-qualified. Anytime you're at your limit, you're going to get some type of offer that says consolidate at a lower rate. They are watching our behavior. They are watching our patterns. So again, it's going to take you to say, you know what? No, I'm not going to spend that. No, I'm not going to eat that. No, I'm not going to go there. No, I'm not going to, continue this relationship or whatever it is. If you don't have that type of decision making, ladies, you will be a dog wagged by the tail in every decision in life. And people will be controlling what you do and where you go and what you spend. And again, that's not attractive to the man that you want. What would you add, Lucy?
Quite honestly, I could not focus on what she was saying because I was focusing on the noise and, looking at somebody, with curly hair, you usually start kind of like undoing your curls from the bottom up, and she was doing them from the top down. I couldn't focus on what she was saying because you're going, girl, what are you doing with your hair? You're destroying it. Anyway, so why do you think that every time you go to the cashier and they tell you, hey, do you want to open a new credit card with 20% off of your blah, blah, blah? They know that when you get there, if you're, into all of this credit stuff, they can get you in to spend more money by giving you more money. So again, just, and the economy and life is not getting any easier. And do you want to start making your life easy now? Or do you want to make it when you have less years to live?
Let's go back in.
And I started applying for them because I was like, wow, my credit score's doing really well. Let me just apply for another credit card. What happened was I started accepting these new cards and I basically was paying them back all fine. And then I basically went through a really, really crappy breakup with my ex-boyfriend.
And there we go. That's how we got her. They know that people will either come across some bad time, some hard time. They know that every one of these women are going to come across, and men, by the way, let me stick to both sexes. It's inevitable that there will be an accident. There will be an emotional point. There will be some point where some company is going to grab your interest with some shiny object that you need right away. They know they're going to get you. And look, we got the money that you can get it instantly. They know. And all of a sudden, boom, they got her. And just so that you know, Her initial credit card company will sell her contact information to other credit card companies or parent companies, and her credit score is always registered nationally, so they'll know that she's a good freaking payer. So they will try to get her to borrow from different companies as well until somebody suck you in enough so that you can overextend yourself. It's an insidious game, my friends.
And
I just want to unpack this while you all are talking in the chat. Have you all noticed, this isn't the first time, maybe not the second time, but I think the third time in this stream between last week and this week, where a woman has said she went through a bad breakup and then the spending went out of control. So you all hear me saying time and time again how we are emotional creatures. We are not equal. We are equally valued, but we are very different. If you think about how a man looks at money, his fist is closed. It cost him years of his life, a trade, a skill, something that he had to probably, bleed and, and try by the sweat of his brow to be able to earn that. So a man is not going to release his fingers easily and be swayed and have somebody wave a shiny new toy. Usually men wait years, decades to buy that car or, take that, trip or whatever they want to do with their disposable income. We women, again, because we are emotional, look at the commercials that we respond to. Every holiday, it's 4th of July weekend. We're thankful to be in the US, but every holiday, every retail store has some type of reason why, because of that holiday, you need to come into their store. There's a new fragrance that's out. There's a new shoe that's out. There's a new whatever that's out. And the commercials and the sound and the beautiful models and everything, we women, we're just like lured in like the Pied Piper. And then before you know it, our hands are open and that money is gone. And I'm not a conspiracy person, but it is by no accident that people want to keep us separate, because they know if women are left to themselves, our hands are always open to give that money. If we have a man in our lives, he's going to say, I don't know, hold on that. Let's talk about that. What are the options? Men are going to ask us questions, but if you're defiant, if you're rebellious, if nobody can't tell you anything, you're going to say, I don't know who you're talking to. This is my money. I've seen it. The women that I coach, some of them are single now because nobody could tell them anything. And then you're going to find yourself repeating that cycle over and over again. So, again, ladies, I keep saying it speaks to the rest of our lives. If you can torpedo yourself into debt because of a breakup, life happens to all of us. What happens when there's a death in the family? What happens when there's an illness? What happens when somebody loses a job or, anything that happens and, God forbid the pet dies or whatever. If you cannot maintain your composure through life's ups and downs, you are what? Like Lucy says, you are a liability and not a risk. And you will find yourself again unattractive. No matter how cute you are, you will find yourself unstable and unattractive to the man that you want. What would you add, Lucy?
I love that closed hand, open hand analogy. It's perfect. And another thing that I was thinking, notice how commercialism, all these marketing companies, every year they tell you that divorce makes women so financially, unstable, and, it breaks them, and it just causes a stress, because that's giving those women an excuse to say, well, divorce made me lose control of my finances. Oh, divorce, because he was being controlling. Now I'm getting out of control because I need to, my feelings, I need to feed them, and I need to do all of these things when he didn't allow me to do it while we were together. The reason he didn't allow you to do those things when you were together, it's because he already saw that you were a shopaholic, a spendaholic. So again, those are things that, I gotta say, thank God for my husband. Being left on my own, it would be a pretty scary thing because, you know, I like shiny things. I like shiny objects and I like to do all of these things. But my husband provides me that practical thing that says, you know what, if I build you the she shed 5 years from now, it's going to be a real house instead of the little shanty, the little, tent that you wanted to build on your own. And it's true, because if left on our own, we're going to do what helps us at the moment without making sure that the actual efficiency and the practicality and the long-term benefits are there by having that other side saying, you know what, maybe that's not a good idea, and listening to that person that says maybe that's not a good idea.
All right, let's go back in and wrap this up.
I just started spending recklessly. I wouldn't just blame it on the breakup. I had bad spending habits and have done from a very young age. And I feel like it's a response to when you don't go out with money and then you suddenly have all this money. I did not know what to do with it.
She did not have a lot of money. And this is another way that you have to stop thinking. Just because you have credit, it doesn't mean that you have money. It just means that you have access to someone else's money. That's all it is. You need to shift your brain. You have access to someone else's money, but it comes at a cost. That's why I don't want freaking credit cards, because I don't need, or because I don't want access to somebody else's money.
Spending every month. And then it got to the point where all of my offers had run out. And then I had to pay the money back. But then my minimum payments were way higher than what I was earning each month. And it just got completely out of control. Barclays ended up giving me a £10,000 £10,000 credit limit at one point, or 5,000. But eventually I ended up I had 8 cards in the end, which is insane. So I think I had access to, I don't know, like 25k worth of credit at the age of like 19, 20. And I just couldn't afford to do the minimum payments. The interest was stacking up. It was a very, very, very stupid and costly mistake on my behalf.
Yeah. And some poor dude that's going to come along and feel sorry for you, and he's going to start chipping in to help you out. All of a sudden, my friends, you're funding her addiction. All I'm telling you, gentlemen, please ask the questions up front before you get deeply involved with these women. All I'm asking you to do, gentlemen, is be careful when it comes to these women, especially when they're beautiful and they look high maintenance. 99% of the time, it's not their salary that is funding this so-called glamorous lifestyle. Most salaries cannot cover that. It is debt. They're in debt, and you do not have to take that on. Ask the right questions up front. The second they say they're having hard times, you just say, hey, how much debt you have? And if they come out with some ridiculous number, you just said, listen, I can't take on any of that debt for you. I am trying to build something for my future, and my job is not to pay off for your bad behavior. I'm sorry. Or you can say, my job is not to pay off for irresponsible behavior, because I made sure that I kept myself disciplined. Oh, really? Of course, they're going to go on with the attitude. But, dude, you just got to freaking stay strong in these cases. You're not here to be a cleanup guy. This is no different than having a baby mama and having to take care of a child that isn't yours. It's the same thing. These women will suck you dry financially for their irresponsible behavior. So her debt and her kids should be on the same level as far as you should stay away from it. Remember that. Okay? Like this video on the way out of.
All right. So this is Ask an Older Man, and he is talking to the men in his community. And I always think it's a privilege for us to be able to listen as women and see what can we learn from this. And, in his summation, having a lot of debt puts you on the same playing field as having these illegitimate children. And y'all can argue me down if you want to, but what men think about baby mamas for the long term. All right. So again, you can make yourself financially unattractive. One of those things you can fix. One of those things is permanently with you. So I always implore ladies to choose wisely and make better decisions. But One last thing that I'll say that he said that stood out to me. This woman was going on and on about how much debt was being made available to her until she had 8 credit cards and couldn't pay the minimum. And he said, just because you have these credit card offers, you don't have money. You have access to someone else's money. And ladies, this may hurt, but I'm going to say it. If you are in a relationship with a man and you're not married, maybe even if you are, because every marriage is different, that's not your money. That is his money. He may give you access to some of it, but you cannot bring your careless, reckless spending habits. And just because a man that you admire is giving you attention, you think, oh, now I'm rich because he's rich. No, that is his. And he has a right to do what he wants or not with it. I was watching a video from an expat. I think he's in Thailand. So maybe he's a passport bro. I think he was married 29 years, whatever happened. Maybe he's divorced now. He's in Thailand. And he was talking about dating women from other cultures. And he said one of his red flags is if she brings up or asks for money anytime within the first year. So ladies, the expectation is, and I think this is a great test of our character, we should come into relationships as the best version of ourselves. So you should be financially able to take care of yourself. Of course, if he wants to gift you something or take you out, you should show gratitude for that. But coming into a relationship or courting and expecting someone to pay anything for you because he has it, again, you will find yourself alone. You do not have his money is not your money. You may not even have access to his money. So thinking just because he has it, now all of a sudden you can swipe that unlimited card, you're going to find yourself again around for the short time and not for the long time. So until you have put in the work, until you are his missus, until he says, because men establish relationships and the terms of the relationship, I would like for you to work. I would like for you to work part-time. I would like for you not to work outside of the house. These are the conversations that you all need to be having in the courting phase, and then decide if this is something that you can agree to and move on. And then once it becomes official and he decides to take you on as a dependent, then you work out what you all have agreed to. But just because a man is dating you and you all asking for Uber money and money to buy dresses and money to get your hair done and asking to take food home to the kids that are not his, you will stay forever single. What would you add, Lucy?
Couldn't have said it any better. I think that it's one of those aha moments for those young ladies thinking that you're going to be married eventually, just to make sure that your financial environment is as clean as possible. Because again, your significant other is watching to see how you those decisions that you make, are they smart or are they not? And are those decisions coming to my relationship once we get together? So again, it's a great topic to think about and to discuss. If you're planning on hitching your wagon to somebody else, it's one of those discussions that needs to happen.
All right. Well, this was a good one. Thank you again, Lucy, for another great video. So we will be back with you all next week. Again, we're down to once a week. So you all will see us Saturdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. We come down hard on you because we care. Believe me, Lucy and I could be living our quiet lives in our and not worried at all. But we want young women to succeed, and we want to tell you what the men expect so that we can set you up for success. Your choice, do what you want to do. Nobody's going to fight you here. Thank you all so much for everything in the comments. This was a lively one. What would you say to close us out, Lucy?
Thank you all for being here, and see you all next Saturday.
Absolutely. So lastly, again, 2 weeks away from our course, Relationship Basics. This is available for women of all ages. If you don't know what it means to be a support system, if you don't know what it means to study your man, anticipate his needs, do for him instead of thinking it's all about you, we teach live starting July 19th. Go to teachablemomentswithmaggie.com. You'll get a calendar invite. Thank you so much for the euros. Y'all liked part 2. Thank you so much. You'll get a calendar invite with a link to the Zoom, and that'll be in 2 weeks at 3 p.m. Eastern. So until then, we will say
Adios.
adios.